Welcome to Higher Learning. I am your host, Oz Rashid. This is more than just a podcast. It's a front row seat to how elite leaders build the most iconic of teams. The kind of leaders who spot potential that others overlook, who build cultures people don't want to leave, who set the bar, then raise it. Work and how we work is evolving at a rapid pace like no time in history. Our guests will give you insights on how to stay out in front when it comes to all things talent, leadership, management, artificial intelligence, and developing the skills that actually matter. Whether you're a founder, hiring manager, or just obsessed with building teams the right way, this is your spot. If it's your first time here, welcome. Hit that subscribe button, drop a rating, tell a friend who gets it. To our longtime listeners, we appreciate you. Thanks for the continued support. Now, let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of Higher Learning. This week's guest is Tate Kelly. Tate is the Senior Vice President of Partnerships at the United Soccer League, where he's leading the sponsorship strategy for one of the fastest growing professional sports properties in the country right now. We're talking expansion clubs, stadium naming rights, front-of-kit deals, the whole build-out. Before the league role, Tate was on the ground in Spokane, launching 2 professional soccer teams from scratch. He set the USL expansion club record for sponsorship revenue in year 1. And before that, he was selling corporate partnerships for the Tennessee Titans in the NFL. And he ran Gonzaga Sports Properties at Learfield IMG College, where he won National Property of the Year. The guy has closed deals at every level of the sports business. But here's what makes Tate's stories different. He comes from a family of Division I athletes. Dad played at Washington State, brother at Eastern Washington, mom ran semi-professionally, and Tate went to Gonzaga on a scholarship too, but not for a team sport. He ran cross country and played golf, the individual sport route. That says something about how he thinks about performance and accountability. And if you hear it, how he approaches the business side as well. If you work in partnerships, BD, or just fascinated by what's happening with soccer in this country, heading into the 2026 World Cup, this episode is for you. Tate, how the heck are you doing, buddy?
Living the dream, Oz. We're hanging out. This is great. Thanks for having me.
So I got to know you obviously through this podcast, and I'll just say this, you know ball. And as somebody that really loves sports myself, I'll meet a lot of people that like to talk sports, but then we'll start to get into things. They don't know the difference between a cover 3 and a cover 2 or a Spain pick and roll. You know ball, and that's why I'm so excited about this conversation. And you built your career in it, man, which I got to give you a lot of credit. I at one point wanted to be an agent. I wanted to be in sports myself, but I ended up going a different route. And so you've lived the dream that I've always had, man. So I'm excited to talk about what you're doing at USL and the role as the SVP of partnerships. So I want to start there because I think a lot of people might read that title and they're not going to have a good sense of what that job does. So can you break it down for us? What is the role with USL? And let's talk a little bit about the league and why it's such an exciting place to be right now.
Yeah, so I'll talk about the league first. I'll kind of move into my role. So yeah, I work for the United Soccer League. We have 50 plus pro clubs across the U.S. We pretty much own tier 4 semi-professional soccer as well on the men's and women's side. We are in absolute growth mode right now, popping up clubs across the country, anywhere from 6 to 10 clubs a year. We're on the women's and men's professional soccer side, semi-professional all the way down to academies, all the way down to youth. So that's really where we're unique, is the youth to pro pathway. There is no other youth to pro pathway here in the U.S. on the soccer side. So it's an unbelievable time to be with the league. Obviously, we have unbelievable, soccer promoters coming here over the next, 5 to 6 years. World Cup here in the States in 26, LA Olympics in 28, and then Women's World Cup here likely in 2031. So for the sport of soccer, there's not a better place, in my opinion, to be in pro sports in the United States right now than pro soccer. So
Can I throw a couple of things in? There's a couple of questions I have. So number one, I started getting into soccer back in 2014, and then I started playing FIFA video game. I started following the EPL. And now I've gone to London and Anfield and I watch my favorite team, Liverpool. I follow the MLS teams here pretty closely. I know that Phoenix Rising from my home state is in the USL. One of the things I'm interested about now, so I want to say, like, soccer, not only is it an amazing sport and an amazing time for the sport, but there's so much upside here in the States. We all know that. We all know that there's an opportunity there. And I think we all start to see that it's growing even over the last 5 to 10 years. So it's an exciting time to be in the sport. I have a quick question though, out of curiosity. Does somebody put their hand up to say we want to be a team? Does a city do that? Like, who are the organizations or the people that you work with around kind of like blessing them with these teams and giving them these opportunities in these lower tier leagues?
Yeah, great question. So it's a variety of methods to get these things off the ground. So sometimes it's the local city officials that are saying, hey, we want to have a new stadium that really becomes like a lighthouse for the community, a gathering place for the community, for professional soccer, for concerts, comedy shows, high school sports. That's kind of one method. Or there's an ownership group in place that's local that says, hey, we want to get a stadium going and get a club here. And really, my boss says like every community can have a local soccer club. So we think the upside is immense. I always say like, when I was in the NFL, I used to always say, we're the largest sports marketing platform in the world. And then I quickly realized that was absolutely not true. When you start looking at the soccer sporting landscape across the world, especially in the UK, those numbers absolutely crush. And love the NFL, but it's unbelievable what the sport of soccer is, worldwide. It really is the world's game. And I think the U.S. has got so much headway ahead of it to build, to grow. I mean, we have promotion relegation coming in the USL here starting in 2028, Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 pro men's soccer. We'll have a one-on-one sporting product in the most competitive sporting landscape in the world. So to have that coming in 2028, and with how mature a lot of these sports and properties are in the U.S., I think is unbelievably unique, and I'm just unbelievably thankful to be a part of it.
I mean, your passion just exudes. It's amazing. You're getting me excited. So let's talk about the partnerships role, because I bet that passion plays a big part with that. What does that actually do? How do you help kind of the league grow from that perspective?
Yeah, so there's a variety of lenses that I live in. So one day I'm working on a stadium naming rights deal. The next I'm helping a club with a front of kit deal. The next I'm standing a club up and kind of helping direct their corporate partnership foundational build out. I always say like the foundation of a club is built off of your corporate partnerships and your ticket sales and your merchandise. So it's key to get those things right, and especially when you're launching a new club in a new market. And you only kind of get that first one chance, I should say, at a first impression, right? So the business community, we need them. It's so key to get local community, local business owners bought in on what we're doing. Make their fans, their employees fans long term. I mean, what's funny about like when you look at the UK and you look at some of these other leagues across the world, you're dealing with third or fourth or fifth generation of fans, right? Where like their great grandpa had these seats, and then, now their grandfather was sitting in them, and now they're sitting in them, right? There's some college football properties here in the U.S. that have some of that, but that's where I'm like, hey, I feel like U.S. soccer is, give us 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years. I'm excited to see where it's at.
Yeah, there's a couple of things I'll say to that. One, I've been to multiple stadiums in the UK. It's a completely different sporting experience. To your point, you see the generations in the stands. Nobody has a phone out. The chants are incredible. And there's the complete focus on the game and the pageantry around it. To your point, I think college football is a great parallel there, but I think they even take it up a notch just because of some of the history there and some of the different things you have there. So totally agree with you on that. And shameless plug, Anfield is one of the best sporting events I've ever been to. And I've been to NFL, MLB, NBA, you name it. Soccer is huge. There's a lot of upside. And the one thing that I think is really interesting, and I had this kind of thought experiment back, I think when the last World Cup happened, if you really want to see the country be super united, right? And where the point where you see like they're filming like in like squares, like everybody cheering and pageantry that we see with a lot of the other countries like the Netherlands and the England and Spain when they're in the World Cup. The World Cup is the only sport that can do that, because the Olympics is so fragmented in the different sports that we get excited about NBA, USA basketball, but I didn't see anybody storming the town and making a big deal about it when we won the gold. I do think with the watch parties and the World Cup and things like that, and I actually watched the US-Mexico game in Mexico during the last World Cup. It was a situation unlike anything I've ever seen in terms of the way people get into it. So I just think I'm so excited for 26. I really hope that our team, we got a new coach. He comes from Tottenham and he's got like a real great pedigree. I'm just hoping that we get our things together and we make a little bit of a run. What do you think? Is it possible?
Well, yeah, I love where we're at. I mean, the U.S., when you start looking at the Olympics, like how great we are in most sports, I kind of love that, like, we're not absolutely dominant in soccer or, European football. I love that we're, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th ranked country in the world in FIFA rankings. Like, I love because, essentially we're trying to get to waters we've never been. So we can get to a semifinal, we can get to a final, we can win the thing. I mean, that's for us, that'd be unbelievable waters. And I would just love to see the country. To your point, like there is nothing more unifying than sports. It's one of the only things where you can, it's hard to say this in 2026, but where you can kind of put your politics to the side and it unifies all of us cheering for one vision, right? And so I love it. I'm super fired up to have this. I think you look at the last World Cup that was in the States, what that did for the sport of soccer. I was just a little guy. I cannot wait to see this thing live because every time this comes around every 4 years, it's like all of a sudden soccer, even in the States, is kind of
Comes to the
goes center
forefront.
stage.
For sure. People who don't pay attention start paying attention. There's like betting and everyone's watching the games and things like that. And yeah, to your point, and this isn't a political podcast, but there's a lot of division in our country right now. No pressure, Christian Pulisic and the men's team. You can bring us together for at least 4 glorious weeks. Please go on a run. All right, man. Let's talk about your background as an athlete, right? You are a family of Division I athletes, like I mentioned in the opening. Your mom ran semi-professionally. You went on a scholarship at Gonzaga or Gonzaga? I want to make sure I get that right.
Gonzaga. I love the
Gonzaga.
correction.
Okay, I just
Right.
want to make sure.
Yeah, you're good.
I said Spokane earlier. Is it Spokane or Spokane?
Spokane, but it's all good.
Okay, all right. I'm just making sure. I want to get my pronunciations right.
You're good.
If you'd gone to your family and said, I want to go into banking or I'm not interested in sports, like, what would have happened? Like, is that even possible, or is this just so ingrained in you from such a young age?
Yeah, I mean, it was in my DNA. I mean, we're wired pretty funky. I mean, athletes are, we're so goal oriented. We love kind of a vision to go towards, and something that kind of, really a winner or a loser. I think there's something to that. And for me, like that really translate unbelievably to sales. I mean, the thing I love about sales is that it's unbelievably measurable. And there's a distinct yes or no. You either got the deal done or you didn't. So I love that lack of gray area. So it really parallels well for my brain. I mean, cross country and track, at the Division I level, I was 160-pound, runner, that was, I was unbelievably fortunate to have, any success that I ended up having, but more it was all about the team. It is an individual sport, but that team camaraderie, the brotherhood. I mean, we were always going to the well together twice a day, morning runs, afternoon workouts. The brotherhood is to us. I mean, we just had 75 alumni come back for the West Coast Conference Championships up in Spokane that Gonzaga was hosting. And it's, the brotherhood is something super special to me. I'm unbelievably thankful I was a part of it. But yeah, my parents were, it was in my DNA. I think they would have been supportive of whatever I want to do in life. But the fact that I always tell them, like, you guys hit the jackpot. You got a Division I basketball player and my brother, got a Division I runner. And myself, and we were just unbelievably thankful to have those journeys.
I love that. I love sports. I got 3 girls and 1 boy. My boy's still too young to know where that's going to go. But my middle daughter is an incredible cheerleader. But my oldest and youngest are more into the arts. And it's not always the case that genetics don't always play out where the families are athletes and then the kids become athletes. So I'm sure your parents are stoked about that. That's amazing. You mentioned you gave a very PR sports answer. I love that. It's about the team. I'm very fortunate. I mean, you put in a lot of the work, brother, yourself. And that's one of the things I want to ask you about. You did play individual sports where, when you're golfing, right? That's you against the club and the ball. And you're really you're more of an internal competition a lot of times. I would say the same thing in running, although you can tell me if I'm wrong. Whereas in basketball, maybe even like football and baseball, there's a little bit more of hey, you got to do this. We got to do this. We got to communicate and work together. What do you see as the differences between these individual sports versus team sports? And how has that informed any of who you are today?
Well, I think my dad always put it pretty well. And he was a high school All-American, played, full ride at Washington State, then went to the NCAA tournament his senior year. And, Washington State basketball was not going to the NCAA tournament very many times in their entire program history. So what you accomplished is unbelievable. But he always said it was there's nowhere to hide in running. There's nowhere to hide in golf. I grew up playing competitive golf. I started swinging the club when I was 3, started playing competitively when I was 8, and then, kind of had a cross on the road. So I could either go run, cross country track in college or go play golf. I was a little fresher with my legs and running. And so, ended up going the running route, but, there's just nowhere to hide. I still have these night dreams where I'll wake up and be like, wow, I was sitting there at the line of my dream and I knew I wasn't ready, for the race. And there's something about running it's all about you and your journey. You either put in the work or you didn't, right? It's just like sales. It all parallels, right? It's funny how these, I always say athletes I love hiring athletes because they already know how to manage their time. They already know how to multitask. I don't have to sit there and educate them on that. I've hired a lot of a lot of athletes through the years, or guys that were high level, at least high level high school athletes, and they just understand how to get things done, and they understand how to have a lot on their plate and to move the needle forward continuously across multiple channels, right? And so, yeah, I'm just thankful that I was able to be part of that running journey, because we did something special when I was there. There was probably lower the half West Coast Conference program when we entered, and then by the time we left, we were third in the conference behind BYU, the University of Portland, who were top 10 teams in the country. We were ranked regionally, and then now that program is now ranked top 25 in the country consistently. I mean, they've taken it to a whole nother level from where we were, but we were just thankful to be part of that step, to get the program going. And so I owe the world to Coach Pat Tyson, and I'm sure he'll watch this, but yeah, it was
right at the
great.
bat. Now listen, I know you mentioned that Wazoo doesn't make the tournament all the time, but Kelvin Sampson, who coached the Houston, used to coach there, right? Clay Thompson, famous alumni. Okay.
Nice.
And listen, as a Zona boy, shameless plug for my number 2 team in the nation that just won the conference, the Big 12.
They're down.
But bear down. I didn't love going up to Washington. I always knew that it was a little bit more remote up there. It wasn't always an easy game, right? And sometimes the crowd would get pretty good. So that Wazoo program, basketball wise, that is a big deal that your dad had success there and got to play there. Very, very cool. And then Gonzaga obviously is a great athletic school, to your point, of really growing in a lot of the other sports. But we all know what they're best known for, basketball. We're going to come back to that. Put a pin in that. Let's go back to the USL for a second. So for people who don't know the landscape, what does the USL control today? And then you mentioned a little bit earlier about the promotion and relegation. Like, what does this all mean? And what do you think it's going to do for that fandom of soccer in the U.S. that hopefully allows us to get some momentum and take it to another level?
Yeah, I'll start talking about the pro side. So on the men's side, we have Tier 3 Pro Soccer, which is Men's League 1. We have Tier 2, which is USL Championship League. And then we're going to launch Tier 1 division. It'll be USL Premier starting in 2028. That will be a promotion relegation system. So multiple teams up, multiple teams down. We have not announced anything publicly about what that, promotion relegation system is going to look like, but, unbelievably exciting. It essentially doubles the amount of games that there is substantially something on the line, right? I mean, we always talk about, I think in this country, of like, winning your conference or winning the championship in the playoffs. Like, we don't talk about like how important, these games are. If you lose, you get relegated, right? Because we never had anything resembling that in this country. So I think it's going to double the level of interest. It's going to double the level of sports betting interest. It'll, obviously add viewership, add in-venue attendance. And these things take time. I mean, we are in the most competitive sporting landscape of any country in the world here in the United States. I mean, there is a league for absolutely everything. And the longer I'm in this, the more I realize how competitive it is for sponsorship dollars, for fans, ticket revenue, all of it, right? So that's on the men's side. We have Tier 1 women's in the Gamebridge Super League. On the women's side, we have Tier 4 semi-professional soccer. I like to describe that as your college all-stars, what they go do for the summer. So think like summer bat league in baseball. And then all the way down to youth academies. And so it's a unique system. But I always say it's like, there's so many Tier 2, Tier 3 markets and some Tier 1 that don't have a local club. And on the soccer side, I mean, you go look at the UK, I mean, they have a professional club every 5 miles. Like, we are so underbuilt. And a lot of these, especially these Tier 2, Tier 3 markets, they don't have a professional team there, right?
The only game in town. I think the strategy is brilliant from a couple of levels. Okay, one is, if you don't got any major sporting college or professional sport, then heck yeah, you're going to be building a base of soccer fans that you might not otherwise have done, which helps grow the sport over the long term, right? Second of all, when I look at the success of a place like Germany when it comes to soccer, and you look at the Dutch and the Netherlands, right? And of course, England, like you just mentioned, Die Mannschaft, which is what they call the German national team, has these leagues that feed up into from the youth academy all the way to the top, which is why they have the infrastructure to ultimately have incredible national teams and have these incredible players. Now, we've gotten a lot better. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, I'm watching U.S. soccer, and like they're all on MLS teams, and they're
Right.
playing in the biggest leagues in the world now, which I know has been part of the strategy, which I think is really, really smart to continue to grow the game. And then going back to what you just said about relegation and promotion, every night, as people find out more about the Premier League and La Liga, and they learn about these different promotion and relegation, everyone's like, why are we doing that in the NBA? Why are we doing? Well, here's why: because owners buy teams with a certain guarantee of what the equity will be and what the size of the team will be and the revenue sharing will be. And so, good luck getting those billionaires to say, yeah, you know what, we'll go with relegation. But you know what? It's really good for the sport, right? It keeps you honest in a lot of ways. Once you go down, working your way back up, like look at Wrexham right now. That story is an amazing story of what they're doing. They're going to be playing at Anfield next year, likely, with the way that they're playing in the Champions League. So I think it's a really, really smart thing, and you can get away with it in your league because there is some infrastructure to be built, but it's only up from here. So you got to get in early with that type of thing. That's why they can pull it off in those leagues that have been around for 100+ years. Because they did it early. And if you try to do it retroactively after the fact, you're going to struggle with that. So I think that's a unique opportunity for your league that I think is really, really cool.
Well, Oz, we have a couple really cool markets recently that have come on board that have absolutely crushed it for us, like Portland, Maine, Portland Hearts of Pine. They are a national case study in any sport, and what they've done from a brand stance, from a kit design stance, from a connecting with the community locally. They have an unbelievable wait list for season tickets. They have a 6,000 person venue that they absolutely pack out every game. They own an entire state. Like, that's a great example. We have another one coming live in Boise this year. Where they have a soccer specific stadium. Brad Stith and team up there have just done an absolutely unbelievable job. That thing will get launched here and kicked here this month. And those are great examples, but we still have such a long way to go. This is not like some of these leagues where you look at it and you're like, how are they going to get any bigger? And also the owners are not going to agree because they're going to lose a percentage of their, TV money, right? We're in a different position, and I think there's so much runway ahead of us. That's why I'm here. I was unbelievably fortunate to be part of USL Spokane Velocity, Spokane Zephyr, was able to launch 2 expansion clubs in the USL, Tier 3 Pro Men's Soccer on the Velocity side, Tier 1 Pro Women's Soccer on the Zephyr side in my hometown, and be part of opening, the first ever downtown stadium in Spokane, One Spokane Stadium. So for me as a Spokane 509 kid, born and raised there, that might have meant as much to me as anything in my sports journey. And I've had some unbelievable ones. I was working for the Zags, my second run when we went to the national championship, 31-0 before we lost to Baylor and the final. We won't talk about that, but it's kind of been one of those things in my sports journey where I'm like, wow, every step I'm like, how's it going to get better than this? Because I got really lucky, Oz, that I got to kind of live out my dreams in my 20s in this business. I got to work for University of Oregon Athletics with IMG College, in a company that just supported me unbelievably. And I got to work at, truly a national brand, the Ducks. I was there right after Marcus Mariota. We went to a Final Four on the men's side with Dylan Brooks, went to a Final Four on the women's side with Sabrina Ionescu. So I was at, I think, one of the epicenters of college athletics for the country. And then I was at, my alma mater for, in my opinion, maybe the best team we've ever had in 2020, 2021, during COVID, an unbelievably weird time. But Odds every step, I'm kind of like, how's it going to get better than this? So I've lived out my dream as a kid. It's unbelievable.
I didn't think I put together that all those Oregon teams were playing at the same time. That's amazing. When I went to U of A from 1999 to 2004, we had 2 Final Four runs. One of the season before I got there, we were 12-1 in football. And, it matters. It does, especially if you care about sports like I did. And I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I was looking at, we had a good basketball team. We'd won the championship in 97, and we had 12-1 football season. And I'm like, weighing some things, I'm like, I think I'm gonna go to U of A. I think I want to go see some good sports. So, and listen, I don't regret that decision at all. Quickly, I want to find out, because you worked at Nike at a temp job in Mammoth Lakes for a while. Then you went to the Titans. Now you're with USL. Just tell us a little bit about this journey. Maybe some interesting stories you have from your time at either of those jobs that stood out to you, because I think your journey's so cool, man.
Yeah, so I was unbelievably fortunate to start at Nike in a temp job right out of college called the Nike Outpost. So essentially what Nike wanted to do was have a presence where all the high school teams from California, Nevada, Oregon, they would all come to Mammoth Lakes to train for the summer. So Nike wanted to have a presence there. So they hired, past Olympic trial qualifiers and then past Division I cross country track athletes. And so I was part of that crew. We got to live up in Mammoth Lakes, in the ski resort for 4 months. They treated us unbelievably. They had a retail presence up there. So we were doing custom shirts for all the teams. We were doing wear testing at their practices. It was Olympic year. So we were doing all Olympic showings. So I just learned an unbelievable amount of presentation, how the look and feel. I worked for a guy named Scotty Lash, and he was just big on like, hey, when you walk into a space, it's got to have the right look and feel and flow, right? And That was kind of ahead of its time. I think that now those are all kind of buzzwords in 2026, but nobody was saying that type of stuff in 2013. So I love that. I mean, getting to work in the NFL with the Titans was an unbelievable experience. I was a college sports guy. I grew up in a market without really a pro team, right? I grew up, idolizing the Washington State Cougars, and then the Zags, because I was there, in 99, I was 8 years old and 9 years old when they kind of started their run. So those were my pros in my world. And so, going to the NFL for me was never necessarily like, oh man, am I gonna make it to the NFL? I mean, I'm super thankful. I worked there. I loved to work there. I think it's an unbelievable league. I mean, that is an absolute machine in what they do and the attention they grab. I mean, it is showtime on Monday night. It's showtime on Sunday night. There is nothing that replaces Monday Night Football, in Nissan Stadium in Nashville, and we're playing the Bills, and Derrick Henry, we're stopping, they're stopping their quarterback on the 1 yard line. Like, there's something about it that you really can't replicate. And we could talk odds into
the NFL, here's the big advantage they have. It's an event. Everything builds up to the week. You can tell the story leading up to the week. You can retroactively assess what happened on that Sunday. And really, it's one of the few leagues that, intentionally it's about the helmet, right? It's about the name on the front of the chest rather than one on the back of the chest. We know who the big players are, but like NFL's made it really amazing that, like, in the NBA, I think people follow players. It does. Right. Number one, you don't see players change teams as much in the NFL, particularly quarterbacks, right? But also, like, people are cheering for the Bills for 40, 50 years because they put that helmet on and it is what it is, right? Unfortunately, I've been stuck on the Arizona Cardinals for the last 30 years and really affected my mental health in a lot of ways. But you know what? It's dyed in the wool. Like, I'm not going anywhere. So I hope they figure it out. But we'll see, brother.
Oz, that TV product that the NFL puts together is unbelievable. It might be the best sport for TV. And that's where that drives their numbers. I mean, Nissan Stadium, for the Tennessee Titans, I mean, you got 60,000 people in the venue. Once you start looking at those numbers and what they're getting on broadcast, I mean, it is NFL and American football is made for TV. And that's where I think that's where it kills it. It
generates so much buzz. They have some international upside themselves. That's why they're playing these games in all these different places. And just a quick shout out to my friends over there in Nashville. I went to the season opener about 3 or 4 years ago when the Cardinals played. And I don't think I realized, I spent time in Nashville, but I don't think I realized that the stadium was a bridge walk across from Broadway. So I got to tell you, brother, going and tailgating at the game, having a good time, having a great time at the game. We won that game. And then rocking over the bridge and getting to hang out on Broadway, that's a good setup. They're doing a good job out there.
I was working for them then. I remember that game. The Cardinals put it to them. And the Titans were unbelievably good that year. But I always said, like, when I was there selling the Titans, I mean, you have one of the best party streets in the world within a 15-minute walk over the beautiful Cumberland Bridge to an NFL stadium. I mean, it is all about location. I mean, in the USL, we're always focusing on how can we plant these stadiums in the heart of downtown. Spokane's a great example. In the heart of downtown, where you can go walk downtown, support a local business by going to a bar, going to a restaurant, and then in Spokane, you're walking right over the river into Riverfront Park, and you're right at the stadium. I mean, it's all about location now. Nobody wants to drive out 90 minutes.
I totally agree with you. If you look at, like, the Bears are looking at building a stadium in Indiana. If you go to the Arizona Cardinals stadium, it's a beautiful stadium, but it's in North Phoenix, Glendale, and it just takes you out of the action. So I agree. And it's tough because it's prime real estate and it costs a lot of money. But, like, you're right. If you could build that experience around the town, the city, and then create so much for the economy around it, I think that's a big deal. That's a smart strategy by the USL, my man. We got to pay the bills here. So we got to talk a little talent, but talent and sports go hand in hand. And so I want to look at this from the paradigm of either on the field or the court, but also, like, you've had to build teams yourself. You said you've hired a lot of athletes. So let's talk about it from this perspective. Do you have a core hiring philosophy? Is it looking for athletes, or what are the things that maybe are the qualities of the athletes that you look at in anybody that you're analyzing and interviewing?
Finding the right talent for your team doesn't have to be a struggle. Meet Aon Hire, the world's first hiring experience management platform designed to transform the way you hire. Powered by AI, Aon Hire takes the hassle out of every step in the process. From smart resume analysis to customized interview questions, it saves you time, money, and effort. Plus, with real-time insights from every interview, you can quickly identify top candidates, reduce turnover, and stay on budget. And forget about note-taking, Aon Hire takes care of that for you. Ready to revolutionize your hiring process? Visit aonhire.com and get started today.
Well, I love to hire athletes, but I think more I'm looking for that athlete mindset, right? I always say it's like I want to hire doers. I want to hire people that are self-starters. That's really kind of my epicenter of what I look for. If I got to get you hyped up and ready to rock, especially in sales or sponsorship fulfillment, if you got that energy's got to come from me every day. Like I got my own stuff going on, right? Like that's a lot, and I can bring a lot of energy day in and day out. But I need people that when they wake up, they're going to get themselves right. If that's working out. That's, I do sauna cold plunge, big into that. I love my Lulu life there in East Nashville, but whatever it may be, if you go for a walk, if you go ride your bike, walk your dog, have a couple cups of coffee, whatever it is, right? I just want to see people that have a flow, that when they come into the office, their mindset's right and they're ready to rock. And I don't need people to always be like me. My best hours of the workday are from 9 to 1. And then I'm always trying to take calls kind of in the afternoon when I, can kind of go into a little bit different gear. But yeah, I want people that I don't want to micromanage. I want people that are going to go get stuff done. And that's,
Well, let's talk about that. How do you determine that in the interview process? Are you seeing how they show up to the interview and extrapolating that to how they might work? Or are you asking questions to determine that? How are you trying to find that?
I mean, I'll go right into them. Like, what's your morning routine? Like from like the moment you wake up until you go into the office, what are you doing? Right. Or like, what are you doing at night? Right. Like some people don't want to work out in the morning, don't want to do stuff in the morning. They're not morning people. That's cool. But like, what are you doing at night then? Right. So I'm always kind of looking for that. Of like, just what makes you tick. And the workplace nowadays is so much about perspective and attitude. Like when you get in there, how do you look at the day? Is a cup half full, cup half empty? How are you looking at the sales number? How are you looking at your sales process? How are you looking at your pipeline? Because it is a world of no's. I always say, like, you got to be thick-skinned to work in sales because you get so many more no's than you do yeses. And so you got to be able to, wake up and say, I want to go hunt every day. I want to go get that meat today. I want to go get it done. Right. And again, it goes back to that athlete mindset of like winning and losing, and that there's a chase and there's a journey. And when I was early in my career, I really struggled with that pressure of, the sales number. Like it could almost take me over, right? Until I got to my sales number, I was always like, I can't wait to get to my sales number. So then I can enjoy my life for the 2 or 3 months until I have to, start over again. Until, I was going to say, you're kind of an idiot again, starting January 1, right? When your number is 0, you got to go chase. But, I used to kind of let it ruin my life to some degree. And I've had to really channel that back and kind of reposition it. I mean, pressure is a privilege. I love that saying because that is so true. When you're in pressure-packed situations, sometimes you're looking like, I don't want as much pressure as I have right now. And then when you don't have pressure, you're like, I just want to go close something. And I want some pressure, So unfortunately in life, you always want what you don't have. So I've had to realize that about my 35-year-old self that, hey, like, bear down. There you go. That was not on purpose. Bear down. But nut up and go get the job done. And, it's enjoy the journey, enjoy the chase.
I think I had a comment with my CRO yesterday. I exactly said pressure is a privilege. We got a lot in common. I mean, the way that I've learned to kind of manage that myself personally is that I don't think being ambitious and being relatively fulfilled have to be mutually exclusive. Okay. And the way that I've learned to do that is if I look at where I'm at in my life right now, I feel pretty good about it. Okay. But if I'm in that exact same place in a week, a month, a quarter, well, now I'm not growing. Now I'm not developing. Now, so you can be fulfilled about, okay, you know what? I think I felt pretty good about it. You know what? I want to be better about that. But here's where I've grown and here's where I've learned. Or maybe I took an L today, but I'm getting better because of it. But the idea behind keeping your ambition and moving forward is that you constantly have a higher bar for yourself. You have this internal competitiveness. And you know what? I hope until the day I die, knock on wood, that people call me an unfinished product. Because that means that I'm continuing to grow and develop and learn and get better. And that's what I want. And that's what is an important mentality when it comes to hitting that number, getting knocked down and getting back up, being persistent and relentless, and having, being self-motivated about these things. So I'm totally with you, brother. We have similar hiring philosophies too. I love to hire athletes, but also to your point, I want people that are passionate, that want to get it, that want things for their life. If you want something for yourself, that usually means great things for the place you work and the company you work at. So those things are tied together. How do we create that environment where people feel like they can have the tools and be empowered to do those things? So same page. What about a memorable interview experience? I got to imagine is maybe you were interviewing or maybe you were interviewing somebody. You don't got to name names, but anything come to mind?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think it might, as I think through my interviews, it's the ones I always kind of love was where, that somebody would take you in person and they would say, hey, like, let's just go have lunch and just talk. Like, let's just see if the energy is right. I'm big off of energy now. Like if I'm interviewing for something or I'm interviewing somebody, I'm like, what's the energy like? Like, is it going to work between the two of us? Right. I worked for some really great people in my time, I mean, right out of the gate in my career, I was at, IMG College with Gonzaga and University of Oregon. I was just really fortunate to be with a company that I really feel believed in me and that it's unbelievable, especially those young years, how important it is that a company invests in you and they see your talent and they're willing to help evolve you, because I wouldn't be where I am today without, people like Tim Pernetti and Brian Molson and Mark Livingston, these people that they just, for whatever reason, right, they gave me a chance. They didn't need to give me a chance, but they gave me a chance, let me come in and they let me try to cook, right? And I was fortunate to have some good years. And so I mean, to your question, I love just getting a feel for people. When I'm interviewing,
Getting to see them outside of a professional environment, who they are, what they're about. You want to see the whole person, and that happens a lot more when you're at a lunch or in a situation or in a dinner or something like that, right?
Totally. And I'm like, hey, like, let's cut the ego out and let's just talk man to man or woman, man to woman or whatever it may be, right? Like, let's just, I want to know who you are. I want to understand like what gets you up in the morning, and how did you get to where you are now, and like what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and is this going to work? Because at the end of the day, you're around a lot of the time, especially in sales, you're around your work, partners more than you are with your family, which is, probably not a great dynamic. That probably should be flipped, but I better like the people I'm with. I mean, that's gotta be paramount. I always say, like, I want to go to war with people that, and go sell deals with people that I want to win and lose with. My old boss used to always say the best thing to a yes is a quick no. Like, I loved quick no's with Mark Livingston at Gonzaga. It was great because, how he always looked at it is like, if you get a quick no, then you're not burning time on something that's not going to close, and it gives you more time to go work on something that will close, right? And so I always say it's like in a year, you only get so many swings in sales. So like you need to maximize those swings. And so, yeah, I don't know if I really answered your question.
No, you did, man. We're on the same
energy.
page. You said something that really stuck out to me. You said, I'm always like kind of observing the energy of the interview. And I was thinking back to our pre-call between the two of us, man. I mean, we could have probably powered the city of Portland, Maine for a year with all the energy we were bringing it. Hopefully we're doing it here on the podcast too, man, and people are getting a kick out of it. Last question about talent I want to ask you about. If I ask you to think back to your best hire you've ever made, does somebody come to mind? And again, you don't got to name names because I want everybody to think it was them, but what was it about them that has made them so impactful in terms of, what they meant to you and what they were, and what did you realize in the interview versus what you got after the fact?
Yeah, I hired a gentleman, and at the end of the day, what I loved about this person is he's moldable. He knew what he didn't know, which I think it's just kind of half of it, right? When you're coming into something new, or you're coming into something where somebody just sees your raw ability, and you're like, I just need to mold that a little bit. That's for me, like, those are the win stories, because you're helping them on their career, and you're helping make them better and help them take a step in their career. I mean, I've had those people in my career, and without them, I wouldn't be where I am. And so, that's where I always kind of get the most out of these things. Like, the older I get now, in my journey, is that if you can help other people be successful, like, they will remember that forever, because I remember those people. And like, there's some of these people I haven't worked with for a decade, but, I still have an unbelievable amount of respect for them, because like they embedded, they gave me the keys and said, go run and go crush it, And so, it just, the ability to be moldable, the ability to understand that you don't have all the answers, because I don't have all the answers. I'm learning every day. But the journey's a long one, Oz, and you gotta sometimes take a couple steps back and realize that we're all trying to figure it out. And anybody in the working world that tells you they haven't figured out, run the heck away from that person, because nobody has it figured out. No matter where I am in my career, it's not like I'm looking back and saying like, oh wow, like sticking my chest out like I have it figured out. Like, absolutely not. I'm a student every day, and I'm always trying to move the needle forward and advance myself.
Beware of experts, or at least self-proclaimed experts. That's for sure. All right, Tate, so a couple other questions, then we're gonna get into our lightning round. Do you have a book that you'd recommend, maybe one that really informed who you are, maybe one you read recently, maybe it's a sports book, anything that you would get out for our listeners?
Yeah, I recently had somebody recommend, or my best friend actually recommended The Energy Bus to me by John Gordon. I'm already a very positive dude, but I mean, Oz, it's, sales, it can get you down. I mean, no matter how like, good you are, you think you are at selling, like it is an ebbs and flows game. And I mean, I had a stint in my career at Gonzaga the second time where like, it was just, I just didn't, the property didn't miss. I didn't feel like I missed. I feel like every single deal felt like, and no matter where we were going, like we were getting the deal done, right? It's just a bunch of yeses, which was for a variety of reasons, right? The economy was great. The Gonzaga basketball was on fire and everything was going great. And so, in those moments, it's always easy. I ever tell my wife, I'm like, it ain't going to be like this forever. Like I got to ride this way while I got it because right now I got the momentum and I've had these spots in my career where I didn't feel like I had any momentum. And so the Energy Bus by John Gordon is all about like, hey, it comes down to your perspective on the situation. And no matter what it is, like if you can look at it one of two ways, you can look at a cup half empty or cup half full and in any situation. Right. And it's a simple story. It's a simple read. I'm not a huge reader. I'm a big, I struggle to sit down and focus like that. So I'm a big audiobook guy. So I love to listen and consume that way. But yeah, that book will get you going. Like if you're ever in a rut, like, man, listen to that. And the other one is Chop Wood, Carry Water. It's just essentially about the, Tony Bennett, the old head basketball coach at Washington State.
Yeah.
And University of Virginia, knows my dad really well. Or my dad knows him very well. And he recommended it to my dad because his whole team was reading it. I mean, and they were talking about it once they won.
Wait, does your dad play up tempo or he played the slow ball like Tony Bennett as fast as defensive?
Well, my dad was a shooter. So he was a 3-point shooter before there was a 3-point line. He was playing from 76 to 80. So a poor guy, if they would have had a 3-point line, his points would have been a completely different number. But yeah, I mean, Chop Wood, Carry Water. It's just about essentially like every day, right? Taking it one day at a time. It's about chopping wood, carrying water, doing the small things that when you kind of zone out and you look back, right? Over like a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10, all of a sudden you're like, wow, the development I had over that amount of time was unbelievable because every day I went to work and chopped wood, carry water. So it always kind of goes back to my mindset, Oz, of how can you move the needle forward every day? That's what it comes down. Did
play against Bill Walton, 76?
That's a great question. I know he just missed John Wooden. So the year John Wooden retired, that's when my dad came in. My dad played for George Raveling, actually, who just passed. Coached at USC, coached at Iowa. Guy was an absolute legend.
Rest in peace, George Raveling. I saw that. You know what I always say, going back to kind of your comment is, and I tell people this all the time, the simplest definition of being happy is focusing on what you have versus what you don't have, right? And that's really what it comes down to. What can I get out of this situation? What is this working for me? And if it's not, like, do something about it. Don't just complain and stress about it. So love the Energy Bus book. I've never heard the other one, but I'll check that out. I got a recommendation for you, though. If you haven't read Shoe Dog.
Oh, yeah.
You read it?
Absolutely.
One of my favorite biographies. And the fact that you worked at Nike, I just thought that book was so informative for me because, he talks about the beginning of Nike, going through this lawsuit and everything that he went through with that. And there was just a lot of parallels for some of the struggles I had early on when I started my company and then where we were going and partners and all these different things. And then the funny part is it only is like the first 10 years of Nike. It doesn't even start to get to the Michael Jordan part and when the company really started to take off. And that just told me that, like, even when you're going through these hard times, that's chapter 1 or 2 of the book. You know what? Close that chapter, move on to the next chapter, write the book, let as long as there's a happy ending, you got more time to keep writing, right? And so that was a great one for me. And it sounds like you read it, so I know you know the same thing. I usually ask this question of executives who are pretty deep into their career. So this might be 5 years ago, man, but I'm going to ask them for you anyway. What's some advice that you give 20-year-old Tate that you didn't know then, but that you know now?
I think when I was, and I kind of hit on this earlier, but like when I was young in my career, I really would get sped up. And so now I really always remind myself, like, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So like for my, running brain, that totally aligns. I was a distance runner. That was my, kind of bread and butter. So for me, that works. And in sales, it's not always going to be ripping. So you gotta kind of, weather through the storm. Right. And so, I'm always like, hey, breathe deep, go get a sonic cold plunge in. At the end of the day, we make our problems, the most important problems in the world. And, somebody just recently described this to me as like, everybody is the main character in their own story. And like, once you understand that, you're like, oh, okay. Like that kind of makes sense. Right. So, yeah, I mean, I like
that, man. That's really good. That's good advice. And I love that you brought it back to running because that's what and that's how your brain works. So that's amazing. All right. We're going to go into our lightning round. You don't know what's coming. Probably have a guess, though. It's going to get progressively harder. Last one, I think, might be a little bit difficult. Going to take you time to think about, but we're going to go through it. So let's start here. Big tournament game or March Madness in general. Like, what's your setup? What are you doing? Are you by yourself? Are you in a group of people? Are you at at a party, sports book? Like, what are you doing?
Well, I'm starting to turn, unfortunately, you turn to your parents if you want to or not. So I actually am kind of getting more of like, I like to kind of be in my own little space somewhere in the stadium where I can just sit and watch. I don't need to be sitting. I've sat, courtside at many games. I've been very fortunate, right, in my life to see awesome advantages. I just want to be somewhere where nobody's going to talk to me, where I can just kind of watch it.
If it's a big game for my team, I just want to be alone.
But I love being in the venue. So I love that you cannot replicate. And that's where that's why I love what I do is that you can never replicate. Watching on TV is great, but you cannot replicate the energy of a crowd.
You're right.
And that's a one-on-one experience. And that's why sports is so special.
All right. Greatest Gonzaga player of all time, in your opinion?
Wow. Well, it's a great question. That's a loaded
And it can be
answer.
just about at the school. It doesn't have to be post NBA.
Well, John Stockton's the answer, but I mean, he's the best. He's the greatest Zag ever. It's not even close. But Adam Morrison for me was such a key character. So he went to the high school that I lived in Spokane, Meade High School. So that's where I was zoned for. I went to Gonzaga Prep, go Bullpups, but I was, zoned for Meade. So watching him, like when I was, in grade school, middle school, and he was a Spokane kid and what he did. I mean, people forget what that JJ Redick, Adam Morrison, what that year was like.
That was real. You're so right. I forgot about that. You're right. They were going head to head. Yeah.
Unbelievable. And I mean, you can hear, I've talked to Coach Few about this. I've heard his stories of it was like being traveling with a movie star. Like you'd get off the bus and make people, girls, just be swarming Adam Morrison, right? People would be trying to get autographs. I mean, he's never seen anything like it. And so for me, Adam Morrison was that guy was in his, the shot, his release, how high it was. He's a 5'09" guy. So anybody from Spokane, that's who I am. So
listen, man, the best player and your favorite player. And listen, Adam Morrison was incredibly accomplished. My next question was going to be, who's the player that you were most surprised didn't succeed in the NBA? He went number 3, I think, to the Hornets. Were you surprised that he didn't have more success?
I mean,
be honest. You can be candid. Did you kind of see it coming?
No, not at all. I mean, I always say it's like anybody that can have 2 contracts, in NFL, having seen that live, right? And then, I've never worked in the NBA, but I understand it to some degree. Anybody that can get 2 contracts at anything, unbelievable, because you're probably set for life if you save it right. I will give you a guy that I was surprised, you might not even remember this name, but JP Batista, he was a Zag. Unbelievable Brazilian
Power
player.
forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Played with Adam Morrison. Rivio was on that team. But JP Batista, I thought was, and this is after decades of just analyzing Gonzaga basketball, I think he was a bona fide pro in the NBA that never necessarily played a long career in the NBA. There's guys like Ronny Turioff that candidly,
heart problem. He had a good NBA career though.
Great. That's a guy that he was good in college, but I didn't think he was going to have that kind of career in the NBA.
He knew his role, though. He came in and played a role that he knew, and that was a valuable role in the NBA for 10, 12 years, I think, right? So he had multiple contracts. So same page on that.
Got one more for you, Oz. Sorry, one more. Kelly Olynyk, my friend, we were same class, 2023. What the career he has put together has been unbelievable. The fact that he is still playing, all respect to KO.
And he had a big, I think in that Celtics Wizards series a couple years ago, he played a really big role in the playoffs. Listen, man, my favorite players of all time at the University of Arizona, the best players are Sean Elliott. They're going to be Steve Kerr. I went to school with Gilbert Arenas and Richard Jefferson, but my favorites of all time are 2 guys, and there's a very similarity to them. Luke Walton and TJ McConnell. And those guys led red and blue. They were passers. They wanted to make people better. Those are my favorite players. In fact, I got to tell you, when we got knocked out in the Elite Eight and both Sean Miller and TJ McConnell didn't make it, man, I cried. I was very upset for both of them, man. And that just goes to show how much I love my sports. What is the best win in Gonzaga history, in your opinion, or your favorite?
I wasn't working there, but I remember thinking, it was in between my 2 stints in Gonzaga. I remember thinking wow, that was unbelievably special. When they beat Zion in the Maui tournament, I think it was Rui was on that team and Brandon Clark, and they went in, and that was Duke was by far, everybody thought Duke was by far the best team in the country that year with Zion, and then the Zags went in and beat them in the final on Maui. I just remember listening to it I love listening to the radio call. I love Tom Hudson, love Adam Morrison on the radio. And I remember thinking like, we're gonna get crushed. So I was listening to the first half on the radio, and then I was with my wife, and I was like, we got to get to a bar because I cannot believe we're up. And then we went and watched it, and they finished the whole thing out, and like that Duke team was special. So that was pretty good.
I'm gonna tell you what, and I'm gonna get this take off so people know that I've said it. That Duke team last year, that was one of the best teams of the last 10 years. I don't think people know, and we're starting to see now how good Knipple and Flag are, and I think you're gonna see Malawach is really good too. But watching that team and how smart they were and how cohesive they were, I cannot believe that they didn't win at all. That was one of the best teams I've seen.
Well, you could say the Zags in 2021. I mean, they were 31-0.
Yeah, I know. But Baylor got a chip, right?
Like, it was really good. That Baylor team was really good.
They were good, but that was not a team that you were probably expecting to go that far. And yeah, you're right. That was your best year. I'm gonna knock on wood because we're having a year like that right now. So
you guys are great. I'm cheering for you. I'm
gonna lose my guy. Final Four this year, man. I'll be in Indianapolis if we are though. What's the worst loss?
Worst loss? Well, I think you kind of just named it. I mean, I was on staff for that. I was in the arena. That was when there was wildly limited capacity, and so I was in Indianapolis for that game at Lucas Oil. We were sitting, I kind of missed actually. We were there for that UCLA game with Jalen Suggs when he hit that half quarter to win. That was in the Final Four game. That was maybe the best. That also might be the best Zag game. I was there live. I mean, that was crazy. The worst game was, unfortunately, probably that next game was.
Well, I forgot how that game went. Was it close throughout, or what happened?
Yeah, so UCLA was like an 11 seed, and I mean, it was an absolute classic. Jalen Suggs hit that half quarter.
No, I meant the Baylor game, though. Was the championship game close, or what?
Oh, I mean, we lost, I think, by 20, 25. I mean, we were down 10 odds early, and I remember looking at my wife being like, we better get going because the Baylor looked, if we played them 10 times with that team that they had, I mean, they probably would have beat us 7 or 8. I mean, they just were big.
And they just defensive guard that the Kings, now we're like totally going off the rails right now, but he plays for Miami now. Yeah, it was a good team, man. Here's my last one, and then I'll leave you be. What's your all-time starting five?
Oh, man, I used to have this on a wrap. Well, you got to throw. Well, this is what always goes down to, like, what era are we talking? Are we going to include John Stockton?
I want you to all time. You got to pick, but you got to reasonably build the team. It's got to be reasonable forwards, guard, center.
All right, so I'll go John Stockton for your point guard. Your number 2, a lot of people will forget, but I loved him. Dan Dickow, what guy could shoot the rock.
I remember Dan.
One of the best strokes out there. Your 3, I'm going to go Richie Fromm, if you remember him. Original Zag, absolute stud. Also, you can tell I love shooters. Great shot. Your 4 has got to be Adam Morrison. And then your 5.
Got to go Chet, right?
No, I love Domantas Sabonis. I was there for that. He was there for my first time. I think Domas, and talk about a guy who's having a great NBA career, NBA All-Star. That got great bloodline. I wish I had that. That kind of.
I remember watching Arvidas back in the day. Okay, man. We're gonna wrap up, but I got 2 more things for you. One, are you picking my team to go to Indianapolis, depending on how the bracket works out?
Oh, I love Tommy. I'm all for Tommy Lloyd. I'm all for the Wildcats. I can't believe I'm saying that, but Mikhail might have the best in-venue basketball experience in college basketball. It is special. I've been there when the Zags beat y'all.
I had to throw that in there.
It was great. I was super thankful to watch it. But Mikhail is special. Tommy Lloyd's going to get there. I want to see him win one. It'd be awesome.
I was going to ask you about it. Regret to 1 to 10 on Tommy Lloyd, but just gave him so much love that I can't even ask you that. Let's both pull for each other's teams. I love the Zags program. I love what you guys have built. I'm hoping that this is our year. Looks like we're playing pretty good. Tay, man, we talked about a lot. This has been one of the longer podcasts we've done, but I really enjoyed the conversation. You brought the energy the entire time. Thanks so much for coming on.
As we cooked, man. Blessings to you. That was awesome. Thanks for having me.
We're going to get together in the near term future, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Go Zags.
Yeah, bear down.
Sounds good.
See you.